Hey, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so glad to be here with you all this afternoon for yet another one of our lovely afternoon chats. So hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell. We've got a couple things to talk about today. Should be a nice, chill conversation. Yeah, cool. Let's do it.
The American century. I say that the century on which we are entering can be and must be the century of the common man.
A radical redistribution of economic power.
I mean, we know that racism is just a byproduct of capitalism. Everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people.
We need a government that will make sure Americans are taken care of and organize the economy to serve the people, not the profits of a wealthy few.
We now have the techniques and the resources to get rid of poverty.
We got to start getting out there with the people.
Get out of the movement and get to the masses.
We need a government of action.
Welcome, 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 everybody. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell. We got a few things to talk about. I hope you all are having a lovely Monday. It is Monday. I had a good weekend. Did a lot of streaming for you all. Did a great conversation last night with a friend of mine who was actually fired from his job at Home Depot because of his support for Palestine. I don't know if you got to see it, but Anas Shaddad, he did a great conversation that's on the YouTube channel. So if you get a chance to watch that, that would be good. Do want to remind you all just quickly that we are having our national convention coming up in Portland, the Center for Political Innovation's national convention. Wow, I just got approached about another high-level guest. This is turning into an all-star gathering. So register if you're coming. Link to register down below is going to be there. And, if you're also able to send us any donation to help us cover the cost of the transport and the people coming in from out of town and all of that, please do that as well. And just to remind you all the way this works is I give my opening remarks, which is what I'm doing right now. As I give my opening remarks and I drink my unnamed diet beverage, I do a roll call after that, and then I answer your questions for the rest of the show. So if you got any questions, super chats, Rumble rants, Rockfin tips, those are the best way to send those in. But, my news feed, the way you can tell that social media is rigged is by what shows up in your news feed. Because I subscribe to thousands of YouTube channels, and there are thousands of YouTube channels that I subscribe to that they post new videos. I never see them. But then there are YouTube channels that I do not subscribe to that somehow show up in my news feed. I'll be watching a video that I want to watch, and then they will come up next. And so this morning I was watching a video of something. I don't even remember what. And something from Sky News Australia decided to come up in my as the next thing on YouTube as I'm getting dressed or I'm getting ready in the morning. First, I'm listening to something that I want to listen to. Next thing you know, I'm hearing Sky News Australia, and they do a story about Jordan Peterson and his opinion of the Israel-Palestine conflict. Well, I do not subscribe to Sky News Australia. For those of you who don't know, Sky News is the Rupert Murdoch outlet. It's the Fox News of Australia. I don't subscribe to Sky News Australia, but for some reason, instead of recommending or uploading or bringing me a video that I want to watch from one of my subscribers, YouTube decided that I really needed to hear Sky News Australia present to me Jordan Peterson's opinion of the Israel-Palestine conflict. And I heard so many things out of Jordan Peterson's mouth that were so wrong and just went, if you just knew the basic facts of the conflict and the basic facts of geopolitics, you wouldn't listen to this man at all. And so I couldn't resist. Every so often you see a television interview or something that's just so bad, You have no choice. You have to respond to it. So I am gonna, this is Jordan Peterson, Sky News. This is the video that was put into my YouTube stream. I had no intention of watching this. I don't subscribe to it, but this is what the algorithm decided to push on me. Jordan Peterson on the Israel-Palestine conflict. We're going to break it down here, how wrong it is.
Peterson is one of the world's most respected public intellectuals, with his opinion on a range of issues highly sought after. The war that's currently raging in Israel has been the subject of heated debate across the globe since its inception on October 7th. Jordan Peterson sat down with Sky News All-Stars Piers Morgan and Andrew Bolt to discuss his thoughts on the ongoing conflict.
Like already they're framing it as you should agree with this man because so many people on the internet like him. I mean, it's like, there we go. The man is a clinical psychologist. What he says about psychology and about personal politics, a lot of it is very, very respectable. But what he says about the Israel-Palestine conflict is something he has no qualification to speak about. And he just says many, many things that are blatantly wrong. So here we go.
When Hamas waged war on Israel by callously targeting young people at a music festival, Jordan Peterson instantly felt sick.
On October the 7th, Hamas obviously committed a terror attack of appalling magnitude. Where were you when you first heard about it, and what was your instant feeling about it?
Well, my instant feeling was to be sickened by it, and it hasn't been that long since I was in Jerusalem, and so it was a little closer to me than it might have otherwise been. I'm also more sensitive to any signs of anti-Semitic catastrophe from studying the Holocaust for the length of time that I did. And I've always regarded Jews as the canary in the coal mine. And I think the reason that the Jews are the canary in the coal mine is because they're a successful minority. And if a culture can tolerate a successful minority, it's pretty damn robust and it's not very resentful. And as soon as a culture starts to get resentful, the Jews make an easy target because they're a minority, and so that's an easy target to begin with. But then they're the minority that has the temerity to be successful. And that really brings the resentful out of the rat holes.
What in the world does that have to do with what's going on in Gaza right now? That has absolutely nothing to do with it. The Jews are not a minority in Israel, and the October 7th attack by Hamas had nothing to do with Jews being a successful minority. That has nothing to do with this. Absolutely nothing to do with it. Do you really think that in Gaza, Hamas was sitting there and going, gosh, these Jews are a minority, but they're successful, and we resent them for their economic success. We're gonna attack that. What in the world does that have to do with anything? That is a completely irrelevant point. He asked him about the October 7th attack by Hamas. And he responds by saying, oh, yes, I sympathize with the Jews are a successful minority. That has nothing to do with anything. That has nothing to do with anything. There's Israel created as a country, ongoing occupation, Palestinians living in Gaza as an open-air prison. It has nothing to do with anything. So right there, what in the world? He's talking about, the Jews are the canary in the coal mine, resentment, Do you really think that the Palestinians living in Gaza were motivated by anger at Jews for being a successful minority? They're not a minority in Israel. That answer right there tells you he's pandering. He's got donors that are big supporters of Israel that promote his work, and he's pandering to them. He's saying, you're a successful minority. They hate you because you're so amazing, right? It has nothing to do with the question. Nothing to do with the question, nothing to do with anything. So let's continue.
As the war began because of the desperation of totalitarian nations.
If it was straightforward and simple, and if there was an easy path forward, then there wouldn't be a war. And so I can tell you what I think is going on to the degree that you can reduce it to something quickly explicable. I think Iran is desperate because of the tenuous hold on power that the mullahs now have in Iran, given...
Yeah, Iran is not desperate. Saudi Arabia has recognized and established diplomatic relations with Iran. Iran just had a train run through Moscow, down to Tehran, and down to Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. Iran is not isolated. Under the Obama administration, and even to some degree or other under the Trump administration, Iran was isolated, and the Sunni and the Shia were divided. That was a big tactic of the Obama administration. But right now, Iran is not isolated. The Iran nuclear deal may not be coming back, but Iran is more integrated than the region now, throughout the region now, than it has been throughout the last 10 years. The entire story of the last 10 years has been the United States trying to isolate Iran. And thanks to the efforts of China and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and Russia, Iran is not isolated. So Iran is not isolated, and Iran is not desperate. So, you might have been able to say that Iran was isolated in the region or whatever, maybe 10 years ago or whatever, but especially in the last year, Iran has become more integrated into the region. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Own citizens' rebellion. I think they see the Abraham Accords, which were the most significant step forward towards peace in the Middle East for like 75 years. They see the Abraham Accords as an existential threat. This is a last-ditch attempt by the Iranian mullahs to use the Islam against Jews story to prop up their own dismal reign. And so they...
What were the Abraham Accords? Right? Because if you're supposed to not know what the Abraham Accords were in order for this interview to work, but I'll let him continue, and we'll get into what the Abraham Accords actually were and why his whole narrative here is just malarkey. But let's continue.
Rattled the chain of their Hamas puppets and said,
Hamas are not puppets of Iran. Hamas is Sunni, Iran is Shia. Hamas is the Palestinian wing of the Muslim Brotherhood. Hamas did not agree with Iran in Syria. Hamas did not agree with Iran on a lot of issues throughout the region. Hamas is the Palestinian resistance. Hezbollah is very friendly to Iran, but Hamas is a Palestinian Sunni organization.
Provoke, and they did, and their hope is that the Israeli response will be so overwhelming that the Arab world turns against them, and maybe even the people who might be inclined to, be swayed by a victim narrative in the West, and that the Abraham Accords will fall apart, and that'll be the end of that. And that could...
Well, the Abraham Accords are going to fall apart. Let's wait until we get to what the Abraham Accords actually are.
Could happen. And
he also adds that the conflict is the last-ditch attempt at control by dictators.
You could also view the current conflict that's emerging in the Middle East as the last gasp of the totalitarian dictators, even in the Islamic world, because my sense is that, and I believe this to be the case, that Iran fueling Hamas did that out of desperation because they know that peace is about to break through with the Abraham Accords. And
okay. What were the Abraham Accords? The Abraham Accords were under Donald Trump. The United Arab Emirates and Bahrain recognized Israel and established diplomatic relations with Israel. Now, folks, first of all, that's not significant because those are both very, very, very small countries. Bahrain is basically one city. The United Arab Emirates is like, 5 or 6 cities. It's Dubai and Abu Dhabi and a few other cities. Neither of those are huge countries, but there are 2 Arab countries that recognized Israel diplomatically. But let's talk about this, right? Iran is the Islamic Republic of Iran. It has elections. It has different political parties. It has a constitution. It's a guided democracy, meaning that the religious leaders get to approve or disapprove the different candidates, but they have competitive elections. People are voting in those elections. Men and women are voting in the elections. Iran is an Islamic republic. The UAE is what? It's the United Arab Emirates. And Bahrain is what? The Kingdom of Bahrain. Bahrain is an absolute monarchy whose king is appointed by Saudi Arabia. The majority of the people in Bahrain are Shia Muslims, but the king of Saudi Arabia appoints a Sunni king who's the puppet and puts them on the throne. The United Arab Emirates makes no pretense of being a democratic country. It's it's 4 or 5 different monarchies. The Kingdom of Dubai, Abu Dhabi. I mean, it's Emirates, kings. So you have two authoritarian, autocratic countries that signed the Abraham Accords and recognize Israel. 2 very, very small, autocratic Arab regimes signed diplomatic recognition of Israel. And he says that is the sign that the dictators are losing power in the Middle East because Iran, which has elections, which has different political parties, I mean, this is ridiculous, right? The Abraham Accords are not a step forward for democracy because the 2 countries that signed it are not in any way democratic. Bahrain is not a democracy. The Sunni minority has a king appointed by the Saudi king who rules over them. The United Arab Emirates are not democracies. Iran is far more democratic than the UAE or than the Kingdom of Bahrain. So this is ridiculous. He does not know what the Abraham Accords are. It's 2 little tiny Arab autocracies recognizing Israel, and that's a threat to dictators when Iran is far more democratic than Bahrain and UAE. The people of Bahrain are basically colonized. They go out in the streets and fight for their freedom, demanding the right to elect their government. The majority are Shia, and they don't have representation in the government. They have a king imposed on them by Saudi Arabia. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He has no clue what he's talking about.
It isn't obvious to me that the countries that signed the Abraham Accords, making peace with Israel, are going to retreat from that, even in the face of these large-scale public demonstrations. I don't think Iran is going to be successful in its attempts to manipulate the Arab world back into permanent enmity with the Jews in Israel and with the Western world.
How is Iran going to manipulate the Arab world? 2 very, very, very small countries recognized Israel in the Abraham Accords. The bulk of the Arab world still holds hatred for Israel and its crimes and stands with the Palestinians. How is that from Iran? I mean, the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain are not major countries in the region. I mean, this is so ignorant. He has no clue what he's talking about.
Now, who knows, right? Because it's a dynamic and fluid situation, but I don't think there's any reason for despair. This could well be the last gasp of the brutal dictators.
The brutal dictators in Bahrain and the United Arab Emirates are the ones who signed the Abraham Accords. Bahrain is a brutal dictatorship. You have no idea what you are talking about.
You know, I'm not overwhelmingly naively optimistic about that, but the Abraham Accords were a major step forward. And
no, they weren't. No, they weren't. They were 2 very, very, very small countries that are both autocratic, totalitarian countries with no rights and no elections, whatever. And they conferred some diplomatic recognition onto Israel. That's not a huge step forward at all. That doesn't change anything. Like, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He has no clue what he's talking about. Someone just handed him a talking point beforehand and said, talk about the Abraham Accords, the Abraham Accords. He has no idea what he's talking about.
They're not dead yet. And so I'm hoping that countries like the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia, the Saudi Arabia who would have signed the Abraham
No, they wouldn't have.
Accords if they would have been approached properly.
That's bullshit. Saudi Arabia is a major, huge Muslim country that funds Palestinian resistance. Saudi Arabia, even though there is some intelligence collaboration between them and Israel, Saudi Arabia would never sign the Abraham Accords. Give me a break. No major country in that region signed the Accords. 2 city-states, more or less, signed the Accords. But no. Saudi Arabia was never going to sign the Abraham Accords. And since the war in Ukraine got going, Saudi Arabia has become more friendly to Russia and more distant from the United States. That's ridiculous. Saudi Arabia was never going to sign the Abraham Accords. They have reestablished diplomatic relations with Iran. How can he just say this?
say by the Biden administration 2 years ago, I think they may still be on board. I think that's possibly still so.
No, it's not going to happen. Saudi Arabia would lose its credibility. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia tries to present itself as a leader of the Muslim world, and their entire credibility would be shot if they signed diplomatic recognition of Israel. How can he say this? No one who knows anything about the region, would claim that Saudi Arabia is on the brink of recognizing Israel. Saudi Arabia would lose all of its credibility in the region with the Arab world and with the Muslims of the world if it signed diplomatic recognition of Israel. You can't just say that. Where is he getting this? No one who knows anything about the region would think that Saudi Arabia would recognize Israel.
And so there's room for hope even on that side.
No, there's not.
He says the war is a continuation of the oppressor-oppressed narrative.
Well, what we're seeing play out to some degree is the continued manifestation of the oppressor-oppressed narrative that's so characteristic of the totalitarian left. And in its latest guise, it's
communism's fault, everybody. It's communism's fault.
Palestinians are playing the role of the unjustly oppressed. And
are they not unjustly oppressed? Did they not, have their homeland stolen from them? Do they not live under occupation?
Once you accept that story, well, it's easy.
Well, what about it is false, my friend? What about it is false? Are the Palestinians not living under occupation? Did they not get driven out of their homeland? It's just, I understand that bad people, Marxists who he considers bad people, consider the Palestinians oppressed, so therefore it must be false. But what about that is false? Nothing about that is false.
It's easy to get your back up about it, and there are reasons for that.
But he sees reason for hope.
It's like he just says, "Oh, well, if you support the Palestinians, you're supporting an oppressor and oppressed narrative, so therefore it's false." Are people actually oppressed in this world? Are people actually oppressors in this world? I guess not, because it sounds like communism, so it must be bad. Like, this is the level of brain damage you're getting.
As oppressive institutions in the West have taken a reputational hit in recent times.
At the same time, a lot of the pretensions of the authoritarian left have been stripped away in the last month.
How are they the authoritarian left when at Harvard they have a doxing truck engaging in, classic cancel culture, driving around Harvard University, doxing all the young people who signed a letter criticizing Israel? Are they the ones firing people and getting people to lose their jobs because they support the Palestinians? Like, this is ridiculous, right? He's talking about the authoritarian left. Who is in authority? Israel is in authority. Israel has the mainstream media on its side. Israel has the American government on its side. In the Western countries, they are arresting people for waving Palestinian flags. How is the left the ones being authoritarian here? People are getting arrested. Holocaust survivors, or the children of Holocaust survivors, are arrested in Britain just for waving Palestinian flags. How is the left being authoritarian here? This is delusional. Like, he's just talking out of his ass.
Institutions like Harvard have taken what might be permanent stains on their reputation as a consequence of being a little bit too ideological in their approach.
No, Harvard itself was not ideological. Some students at Harvard wrote a letter supporting the Palestinians, and now they have a truck driving around the campus doxing them. You're just wrong. Harvard itself is pro-Israel overwhelmingly. Some students at Harvard that have a more global understanding of these events and don't have their heads trapped in the mainstream American media narrative signed a letter, and now they're being harassed and maybe even kicked out of school. There's calls for them to be expelled from school. You have no idea what you're talking about.
Dr. Peterson says a major issue which has emerged in the war is the volume of confronting imagery proliferated on social media.
And in particular, the last 3 weeks, if you're a young person with an impressionable mind and you're getting bombarded with some of the worst imagery imaginable, babies dead.
Didn't happen. The beheaded babies thing that Piers Morgan repeated has been debunked. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. The beheaded babies thing was fake news.
Limbless and so on. If you're getting that on your feed all day long, which I'm seeing on mine, so they must be, it can only have an incredibly damaging effect to to, I think, a young generation already ripped with anxiety, ripped with problems about how to deal with the real world. And I think a lot of it is they're just seeing so much bad stuff all the time on social media, which when I was young, you just couldn't see it. You would not be able to access this kind of thing. You were protected in a way from the reality of things.
I'm sorry, I can't get over. Why is he wearing a clown costume like this? Like his suit is half red and half blue, like, you know, and he's got the eyebrows, and I mean, he looks like the Joker or something.
Like warfare, and protected from this kind of imagery.
Yeah, well, again, it's a problem of technological revolution, because this new sensory system that we've produced, this new system of perception, it's a fire hose, first of all, that's impossible to govern. You can never get on top of it. It's infinite in its scope.
Yeah.
And then it allows the pathological and the terrible to spread as rapidly as the beneficial and the good. And so it is overwhelming. It's not just kids that have a hard time with that. I mean, it's just these technologies, well, what do we expect? They're insanely powerful and remarkable. But
yeah, he just said absolutely nothing there.
They carry with it all of the implications of that insane power on the pathological side. And
he just repeated the question.
We don't exactly know how to deal with it. We don't know how to.
Deep, man. Whoa, it's so deep. It's so deep. Whoa. There's not a single new insight here. The question was asked, what about all this imagery on social media? And he's just like, yeah, imagery on social media is shocking. Yeah, there's no substance to his answer. He's not bringing anything new. He's just basically reiterating the question.
We haven't evolved the social norms even that regulate online conduct.
When asked what an ideal solution
looks like, against that. I thought he was against censorship on the internet. What I mean,
Dr. Peterson focused on the successful implementation of the Abraham Accords.
The Islam world should.
I mean, he just keeps. They handed him a talking point beforehand and said Abraham Accords, and he's assuming your audience knows nothing about it. The Abraham Accords mean nothing.
Move in the direction of the Abraham Accords. That would be great for everyone. We could have a real peace. We could have something approximating a union of the Abrahamic people, and I think the accord was named extraordinarily well. Or we could have.
It was named extraordinarily well. They got two very small, very, very authoritarian countries in the Middle East, the Kingdom of Bahrain and the United Arab Emirates, to sign diplomatic recognition of Israel under the Trump administration. That's it. That's it. That you know, but it was named very nice. I mean, the Abraham Accords are meaningless. Right now, the whole Muslim world is raging at what the Israelis are doing in Gaza. And he's sitting there saying, yeah, well, the Abraham Accords. I mean, if he just says, I mean, it's like they gave him one talking point before this interview, which was Abraham Accords. Oy.
Have what we've had for the last 75 years with the Palestinians as perpetual cannon fodder, you know, at the beck and call of those for whom having them be cannon fodder is useful. And so, yeah, well, there's just moral quandaries everywhere there. It's a minefield, but that's what I think is the fundamental reality of the current situation. It's a propaganda war, and there's a lot at stake.
It's a propaganda war, yeah. That's why the Israelis lied about the beheaded babies. That turned out to be fake news. That's why the Israelis lied and claimed they were raping the hostages when they weren't. It's a propaganda war, and you are sitting there with Piers Morgan, and you are spreading Israeli propaganda.
Dr. Peterson also discussed his controversial pro-Israel tweet, which caused waves at the start of the conflict. Sky News host Andrew Bolt asked him if he regretted his emotional brain snap.
But you yourself were abused in a pack attack online for tweeting just after that sadistic Hamas slaughter of 1,400 Jews 3 weeks ago. Give him hell, Netanyahu. Do you regret that? I mean, should you regret it?
Well, Twitter isn't a very good medium for commenting about.
Yeah, you don't care about Palestinians, and you basically called for mass slaughter, right? Which is what's happening right now around the clock. Israel is bombing Gaza around the clock, killing 12 Palestinians every hour. Massive bombing of civilians, destruction of hospitals. And then we find out much of what we were told initially about October 7th is fake news. They weren't beheading babies. They weren't raping women. The Palestinians are trying to keep the hostages alive while Israel is trying to kill them.
Vital matters, and what I did in the aftermath of that was release a video explaining something like we talked about tonight, which was the relationship between the thugs in Iran and the support for Hamas and what's really going on behind the scenes.
So you just hate Iran, right? And that's the talking point. I mean, this is so
that
ridiculous.
was a much more intelligent approach to the problem than my more emotional response to the Hamas brutality that unfolded in
much of which has been debunked.
Israel. And so it's difficult to master these complex technologies of mass communication perfectly. And one of the things that I've been trying to learn is when a quick quip is appropriate and when something more thoughtful and longer form is appropriate. And in this particular situation, the longer form response was more appropriate. Do I regret it? Well, it's hard not to react with a certain degree of emotion when you see that kind of brutality reemerge. And I knew what was going on behind the scenes.
Yeah. So the whole reason that I had this video to respond to is because this showed up in my newsfeed. I don't watch pro-Israel videos. I do not subscribe to Sky News. But YouTube and the algorithms are so rigged that despite the fact that I watch overwhelmingly pro-Palestinian videos, despite the fact that I am not living in Australia, I do not subscribe to Sky News Australia. I don't subscribe to any Sky News. That is the video that got recommended for me on YouTube. And if that is not proof of how rigged the algorithms absolutely are, I don't know what is. I have no reason to watch that. But this morning when I woke up and I put YouTube on, that is what came up. And it just came up. I was watching something that was of my own interest, and that came up. And that shows you that YouTube is rigged. It has a political agenda. It's trying to force certain political pro-imperialist, pro-Wall Street, pro-Israel views down your throat. And even if you're me and you have, all kinds of anti-imperialist credentials, you work at RT, etc., you're watching various videos from dissidents, it's still rigged. So that is what comes up on your screen. Just like someone said, I constantly get recommended videos from my haters. Exactly, right? If you watch this channel, the first thing they recommend you is videos explaining that I'm a doofus, I'm a big liar, I'm an evil cult leader, I'm an evil person, right? Social media is absolutely rigged. And I mean, we just have to recognize that it is completely rigged. And that's why the Center for Political Innovation, we are in the process of transitioning to be an in real life movement and transitioning away from being an online centered organization. I still do these streams as a way to be in touch with the membership of the organization, to maintain regular communication. But social media is completely rigged. It is absolutely rigged. There is no reason, absolutely no reason that video should have come up in my feed. I'm kind of appreciative that it did because it gave me something to debunk. Because there were just so many wrong things that Jordan Peterson said in that interview. It was just amazing. And to think that there are people that watch that and say, yeah, the Abraham Accords, that's the way forward for democracy, right? Abraham Accords, that's democracy. In the Middle East, this is the dictators fighting Israel. It's like, wow. There's probably thousands and thousands of people who watched that and had no idea of what was actually going on and think that that's reality. And it's very, very frustrating. It's very frustrating indeed. But we got to focus on the positive. Our conference in Oregon is blowing up. I got a phone call last night from a very prominent person. And he said, can I come? And I said, absolutely, you can come. And so he's confirming with me. And it looks like in the next 24 hours, we're going to be announcing yet another high-level guest for our Oregon conference. That's huge. That's absolutely huge. I am waiting to announce this high-level guest. I didn't even think to ask this person. I didn't want to impose. He's been doing a lot of big stuff lately, and I assumed he was busy, but he reached out to me. He said, "Hey, I heard you're having a conference in Oregon. Can I come?" And I said, "Absolutely, you can come." I said, "Absolutely, you can come." So I am very, very happy about that. It looks like pretty soon I'm headed to San Francisco for the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation Council meeting. That's where I'm headed. San Francisco is the next place I'm going. I'm going to be covering the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation meeting that's happening in San Francisco next week. That's going to be exciting. So that's going to be my next big trip here before I end up in Portland. But yeah, a great, amazing things are happening. Our anti-imperialist community and our message of anti-imperialism and solidarity is absolutely marching ahead. I am very, very excited about everything that is developing. I'm very about it. Yeah, I'm ready to keep organizing, ready to keep doing things, ready to keep getting stuff done. I think about a lot of things lately. I have started reading recently the address that Stalin gave to the Communist Party of the Soviet Union in 1925, assessing their international situation. I've been reading over that talk and trying to familiarize myself of Stalin and his analysis of the divisions within the ruling class prior to the Popular Front. We know that during the Popular Front, the line of the Communist International was to divide the ruling class between the democratic bourgeoisie of the United States and Britain and countries that had not become fascist, and the fascist bourgeoisie. But we know that prior to that, before the rise of fascism, Stalin had a separate analysis where he divided the ruling class between the captains of industry and the financier imperialists, and he pointed to the social democrats as being the main danger. I want to familiarize myself with that analysis of Stalin and understand Stalin's pre-Popular Front analysis. And so I've been studying that particular analysis of Stalin, the concept of the third period, etc. So that is my current field of study. As I prepare my remarks, I'm working on giving a dynamic presentation in Portland, Oregon. We're also, going to launch a religious organization, City Builder Ministries, a campus ministry on December 3rd. We have our national convention coming up December 2nd. December 1st, Jyoti Brar is giving a dynamic presentation the night before, sponsored by the World Anti-Imperialist Platform, Center for Political Innovation, Party of Communists. So we got a lot of different projects in the works right now. I'm working on giving a dynamic presentation in Portland, and I put a lot of work into my presentations. Some people, Glenn Beck, he gets up there and he says, "I never practice for any of my speeches. It just all comes out of my mouth." Well, I don't believe you, Glenn. He clearly does, and there's no reason to say that. I do, right? And that I tell people, if you want to be a good public speaker, you have to learn to prepare. Now, that doesn't mean you write out every word and read it from a paper. No, it means you know it well enough and you're prepared well enough that you can give your presentation without a sheet of paper in front of you. Good public speaking does take work, right? It does take work. So I am working on my dynamic presentation for Portland. I am very excited to give that presentation. I'm just trying to think. There's a lot on my mind today. But hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell. We're doing great things here as an organization, and we're moving ahead. Our community is marching forward. We are doing great things, and I want to compliment all of you for the hard work that you all are doing. I mean, let me show you. I can just show you this, right? Let me just show you a couple pictures here, right? Right? Because, people don't realize that a lot of work goes into building conferences like we're doing right now. People seem to think that things just happen, right? I used to think that too. I used to think, well, conferences just kind of happen. No, they don't. No, they don't. They do not just happen. And so let me just show you. I will show you what's going on right now in Portland. right? So we are trying to get people to the conference. Right, we're trying to get people to the conference. So they're going up on telephone poles, but they're also going up on doors, door knockers. Right? Those are door knockers, and we're hanging them on people's doorknobs in Portland, believe it or not. And the team out there is doing a great, great job. And we are getting impressions. New people are registering for the conference every day. It's very exciting what's happening. The outreach is really, really happening. And yeah, I'm just really thrilled with the hard work that is going on out there in Portland. To build our conference. Not that we couldn't use your help further, right? We could use more people's help on this. But yeah, this is what's happening out there. I'm very, very happy that people are stepping up to the plate. People really want this organization to grow and expand. People really, really want to see us march ahead. But if anyone has anything they want me to address, any super chats, any Rumble rants, any Rockfin tips, now would be the time to send your questions in. I am here to answer your questions. That is one thing that I do on my afternoon streams. I do answer people's questions. So anything on your mind, shoot me a Rumble rant, a Rockfin tip, a super chat. Send it my way. Send it my way. Yeah, I don't see anyone with any questions yet. We did our response to Jordan Peterson, and we've been talking about Portland. So why don't we do a roll call? And after that, if no one has any questions, we can just be on our way. So who's watching? Names and locations. Names and locations. Who is with us this afternoon? Names and locations. Names and locations. Who is with us? Oh, will you live stream the conference? I'll answer that after the roll call. So we have one super chat. Very good. Okay, names and locations, names and locations. Who is with us tonight? Names and locations, names and locations. Who is with us? Who is with us tonight? Names and locations. Sjord from the Netherlands. Now, Sjord sent me some interesting video clips this morning. I might include that later. We got Balthazar in Oakland. We got Chester in England. We got Nina in Kansas City. Is that where you're at these days, Nina? Miguel Vidal in Linwood, California. Welcome, Miguel. Welcome, welcome. Chester in England. Balthazar in Oakland. Names and locations. We got Patch in Arizona. Welcome, Patch. Good to have you with us. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We got Chicago, Illinois. Gabby Hernandez. We got Mariah M. Right? Welcome, Mariah. We got Simon Songhurst from Oslo, Norway. Katusha in Belarus. Very cool. Julian Tours in France. Patrick in Maine. Welcome, Patrick. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Names and locations, folks. Names and locations. We got Juan. Welcome, Juan. Good to have you with us. Names and locations. Names and locations. Names and locations. Yeah. Names and locations. Names and locations. I see St. David's, Bermuda is on the Rumble. Boris in Illinois is also on the Rumble. I see Victory Gin in New Mexico is on the Rockfin. He's watching on Rockfin. John McCarthy is back in Chicago. Now, John McCarthy was at the annual Black is Back March to support the Uhuru movement. He gave a presentation there and was doing everything he could to support the Uhuru movement. And I'm hoping that we can get video of John's presentation at the Black is Back March soon that we can put on YouTube, because it was tremendous what he did. And that our solidarity with Uhuru is really, really important. We should be doing everything we possibly can to support the Uhuru movement right now. So I'm hoping video of John's presentation is available soon. Does one need to lack empathy to be elected off? That's a good question. Very, very good. All right. Anyone else? Names and locations? If not, I will start answering super chat questions. So the first question comes from Gala. Will you live stream the conference? We generally don't do that for a couple reasons. First of all, we make high quality video right? We have a professional video production crew with multiple cameras, and we want people to see the conference in a professional way. So that's the first reason, generally, is that we want the videos that people see of the conference to be fancy, professional ones, not just like, a camera just catching everything and live streaming. The second reason is we want editing power. You never know what could happen at a conference. You could get some random person who comes in and makes a scene and disrupts or something like that. And you want editorial power. But I am open to the idea of live streaming the conference, right? Generally we have done high quality videos that come out in the following weeks. But I'm open to the idea of doing live streams, right? If there's somebody in the Center for Political Innovation who feels that they could take on the task of live streaming the conferences and could do it in a high quality way, I'm open to that idea. I'm not opposed to it necessarily. Generally, we have not live streamed our events because we want a high quality video to be what gets out there, not just a stagnant camera live streaming. We don't want people to just watch the live stream and then not see the high quality video afterwards. It's weird how that works, right? You'd think that people would see the live stream video and say, well, that's just a live stream. And then they would see the actual professional video and say, see, they're very professional. But it doesn't work that way. People can be, it's like oddly subconscious. If they see a not high quality video come out, that's all they watch. And then they think of the group as less high quality. And so we try to have people see us in a high quality video rather than just a stagnant camera that sits there and live streams everything. But I'm open to a live stream. If there's somebody in the Center for Political Innovation who feels they could take on the task of live streaming our conference, and they could do it in a very professional way, so that the live stream video of the conference was high quality, I'm open to that. Now, maybe this wouldn't be a stream that was available to the public. Maybe this would be people could register online, or for the membership, they could register online to watch the live stream. I'm open to different options. As of now, the plan is not to live stream, but we shall see. I'm open to the idea, right? I'm open to the idea. All of this, all of these things, you have to have people that are willing to do them, number one. And you have to have the technological capacity. You needed the budget, right? Which we're still trying to raise money. I mean, we're quite nervous about money still. I mean, we're doing better than we were. There's been a lot of people who've stepped up to the plate in the last couple of days. That's been very, very helpful. But we still want to get over the last hurdle, with the money and get us into a spot where we have more options. We're still in a little bit of a tight spot with finances, but we're not nowhere near as tight as we were. We seem to be in a better spot, but please, if anyone can help us, do the conference better, that would be great. Until we get over that hurdle, we'd like to do things as comfortably and smoothly as we possibly can. It would be really, really great if we could bring, well, anyway, I don't want to get into specifics, but yeah, I'm open to a live stream. Let me just put it that way. I am open to live streaming the conference. As of now, that's not part of the plan, but maybe it could be. If fundraising continues to go well, if people with that technological capacity open up and are available, I'm open to it. Let me just put it that way. All right. Does one need to lack empathy to be elected to office? Well, actually, Nina, I mean, often people vote for candidates that they feel have empathy, right? I mean, people generally perceive, the politicians that they like as caring about them. In general, generally, the kind of people who get elected are people that, are perceived as having empathy. Donald Trump's supporters generally feel that he cares about them. That's worth pointing out. Barack Obama, the black community overwhelmingly felt that he cared about them. And many other Americans also felt that Barack Obama cared about them. Now, the empathy is not genuine. So I think what you're getting at with your question is that, are these people that are elected to office, they just don't seem to care about the people. And I think you're right about that, right? They're beholden more to the political machine. They're beholden more to those with wealth and power and the ability to control the media and public information, et cetera, than they are to the masses of people. And you're right. But at the same time, if the masses perceive a political leader as not having empathy, they largely will not win. And this is something that really bothers libertarians. Libertarians get very angry about this because they believe the government shouldn't do anything to help anybody. They believe that compassion is a form of weakness. They believe that the state intervening in the economy is somehow totalitarian. And it angers them that the way politicians get elected is by promising a better life for the people. They get angry because they say, well, the government can't make life better for the people. Your Dave Smith type libertarians. It really bothers them that overwhelmingly people do vote for candidates and political leaders who say they care about them, when according to the libertarian worldview, the government shouldn't care about you, because government caring about you is the root of all the problems, and the market naturally solves everything. So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword, Nina. But yes, at the end of the day, it really does seem very clear that our political leaders don't have empathy for the people. They have empathy for the wealthy donors, for the billionaires, for the political machine, for the apparatus of the state, which is very closely intertwined with it. There you go. Is there a way to participate in CPI activities from overseas? Thoughts on overseas chapters? There's no decent organizations in the Netherlands. Well, yes and no. Now, forming, and there has been talk of people in the United Kingdom and Australia and other countries forming their own CPI. I think they would have to legally be separate organizations. I don't think they could be the same organization, because that would have legal problems for the nonprofit status of CPI. But if you were to incorporate and form your own separate CPI Netherlands, right? As long as it was clear you weren't like taking our orders, or we weren't funding you, or vice versa. I think that would be fine, right? To form your own organization, to study CPI material, perhaps produce your own CPI material for the Netherlands. That's something that I think could absolutely be a productive thing to do. So on that end, I very much would encourage you to do that. But we have to be careful about how it's done. In order to make sure we don't jeopardize the nonprofit status of CPI, etc. But in the past, there's been a number of UK people that want to form a CPI affiliated group. We've had people in Canada, people in Australia. It tends to be people in the English speaking world. But there you go. I think it would be great if you moved ahead forming some kind of CPI affiliated group in the Netherlands. That would be awesome. We really need to expose the synthetic left. It's our duty to make people aware of the fake left. We will win this, comrades. Well, absolutely. But it's on the one hand, it's about exposing the synthetic left. But the main thing is not about exposing them. It's about going lower and deeper to the real masses and just looking right past them. Right? That's the main thing we need to do with regards to the synthetic left. We do need to call them out here and there. We're calling out PSL for the way that they betrayed Brian Becker, the way they betrayed the Uhuru movement, et cetera. And we have called them out in the past for not supporting Russia, et cetera. And I think it's important to distinguish ourselves and make clear, well, there's us and then there's them, and show the differences to the masses of people. But at the same time, the main thing we need to do is just get to the masses. Right? Recruit people who would never go to a Palestine rally. Recruit people who've never met a socialist or a communist or an anti-imperialist before. We need to get to the masses of people. We need to go lower and deeper to the real masses and just look past them. Just forget that they exist, right? If you're on the highway, someone once told me, if you're on the highway and someone is in front of you, do you just stay behind them and honk your horn real loud and complain that they're, in front of you and they're going slow? No, you swerve and you go around them. And that's what we need to do with the synthetic left. We need to just swerve and go around them, right? They're stuck in a rut. They're going slow down the highway. So we just got to pass them. We got to pass the synthetic left ultimately. But yeah, it's important to distinguish ourselves. And often when we call out the synthetic left, we should be doing so in a way that speaks to their membership. We can't do so in a way that's just hostile. We need to do so in a way that their membership hears us, right? We need to say the things that your typical PSL member, who's maybe frustrated with how the organization is operating, might agree with. That's what we need to do. We need to say the things that your typical member of the Communist Party USA who really does believe in communism, but is very frustrated with the CPUSA. We need to say what they would think. When you call out these groups, you need to do so in a way that people that are in these groups, because I was in the Workers' World Party for 8 years, and I was very frustrated with how the Workers' World Party was failing. And if somebody had just come up to me and said, well, Workers' World Party sucks, blah, 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 I wouldn't have heard them. But if they had said the things that I was already thinking and shown me that the kind of things I was frustrated about could be resolved and taken care of in another organization, I would listen to them. And so, there's an art to it, and we're learning. We're getting better at this. But when we engage the synthetic left, we need to do so in a way that dissident members, people that are in these groups and frustrated, will hear us. One thing I've pointed out, now the Communist Party and us, we're not really communicating. For a while, the Communist Party was very hostile to CPI and was just obsessed with attacking the CPI. For a while, I used to make the joke, the louder someone tweets against CPI, the more angry, hostile tweets someone makes at CPI in the Communist Party, the more they agree with us internally, and they're trying to protect themselves. And I was actually right about that. I had confirmation of that, that people that were in the Communist Party would disagree with the Communist Party, would want the Communist Party to be less woke, would want the Communist Party to be less hostile to Trump supporters, would want the Communist Party to be more anti-imperialist. And people would accuse them of saying, oh, you sound like CPI. You sound like Caleb. You sound like Caleb. And so they would tweet attacks on me in order to try and protect their reputation. And that's one thing you have to remember. The PSL members who attack CPI the most are probably the ones who agree with CPI the most. And they're trying to maintain their credibility. The members of the Communist Party that attack CPI the most are probably the ones who agree with CPI the most, right? That the more someone publicly attacks us, the more internally they're angry about the same things that we are angry with PSL about. So that's an important thing to keep in mind as well. So that's why nuance is important in all things. Nuance is important in all things. So there you go. There you go, everybody. All right. Well, hey, it's been a fun afternoon stream. I got to answer a couple questions. Yeah, I will be back tonight. We'll do another late night stream tonight. I'll be streaming all week. Next week, I'm headed to the Asia Pacific Economic Council in San Francisco, but I'll try to stream while I'm out there. I'll bring my camera and all that. And hopefully I'll be streaming during that. And then I'll be in Portland after that. Oh, can you respond to the clips I sent you today? I had trouble reading the subtitles on those clips. But you know what? I will put them on. I will put them on. But I will tell you, some of the subtitles were hard to read. But you know what? Yeah, I'll put them on. All right, hold on. Hold your horses. We're just going to put those clips on. Yeah, why not, right? So, Ward, you sent me clips from these right-wing politicians that you said illustrate and show what I have said on these streams about the lower levels of capital and the synthetic left. And these are from politicians in Norway, right? Or no, these are Dutch politicians. So I will show them. Why not? I will show them. So we got the first one here, City Builders. We got another one here. Oh, the other one hasn't downloaded yet. Let me just download this other one. And yeah, we'll show them. Yeah, we can do that, right? So these are two clips that Saward has sent me. Saward sent me of Dutch politicians from the Netherlands or from Holland who have basically confirmed what I've said about the new right and their economic basis, how they represent the lower levels of capital. So let's put them on. All right, this is the first clip. It's from City Builders. It's called City Builders. Okay.
De plannen bij de ruimtevaart in een verkiezingsprogramma staan, maar Forum heeft daar wel erg ambitieuze plannen voor. Kan meneer Baudet deze kort lichten?
Ja, wij denken dat het een van de grootste tragedieën is van de moderne tijd. dat onze cultuur zich richt op zwakte. Dus wij zijn gericht op, niet iedereen kan meekomen. We moeten sorry zeggen voor het verleden. Alles is gericht op onszelf naar beneden halen, op het verleden, ook in het onderwijs. We richten ons continu op de mensen die niet makkelijk mee kunnen komen. Maar we hebben geen visie meer op excellentie. En wat kun je nou beter doen als samenleving dan ook nog het allerhoogste doel, het allergrootste doel, dat zegt Elon Musk ook. Wij gaan gewoon, naar de maan. Wij gaan gewoon Mars koloniseren.
En u wilt
Yeah, and this is a very good critique of the left. The left tends to focus on negativity. It tends to focus on I can't, we can't, resentment of the past. Whereas, this new right, they are obsessed with building, right? He's talking about colonizing Mars. He's talking about going to space, and that it appeals to the optimistic, constructive side of people. And that's part of the appeal of the new right. I think he's got a point there.
Maar we waren nog niet op de maan
Meneer
geweest,
Baudet, meneer Baudet.
All right.
Gedaan met de zeeën, zeg maar, overvaren. En dat we weer die spirit krijgen van een natie die streeft naar het hoogste. En dat is, denk ik, iets wat we spiritueel gezien zijn kwijtgeraakt in het Westen, in de moderne tijd. En dat is een heel groot probleem.
Yeah, and I would argue that is one of the differences. People see Donald Trump in the United States as a businessman, a guy whose name is on the side of buildings all over the world, a builder. Whereas they see the left is associated with resentment and pessimism, etc., and appealing to kind of weakness and the resentment of weak people. I think they've got a point there, right? And that's kind of the appeal of the new right, and that they see the synthetic left as appealing to pessimism and resentment and not going any place, and they see the new right as building. And I argue that this represents the lower levels of capital. And then here's another clip that was sent to me by Saward.
Vraag van de Talking Dutchman. Meneer Baudet, die is aan u. Thierry, je zegt te strijden tegen de elite. Maar veel van je plannen zijn in het financieel belang van de allerrijksten, zoals het schrappen van de erfbelasting. Hoe past dit bij je strijd tegen de elite?
Ik weet niet of ik strijd tegen de elite. Ik strijd tegen het beleid dat we nu hebben in Nederland. En dat is slecht beleid voor Nederland.
Maar misschien dan
het schrappen van de erf- en schenkbelasting. Het schrappen van de erf- en schenkbelasting is een maatregel die een uitdrukking is van elementaire rechtvaardigheid. Mensen hebben belasting betaald over geld dat ze hebben verdiend. En moeten dat kunnen doorgeven aan hun kinderen of aan hun naasten. De allerrijksten die betalen überhaupt al helemaal geen belasting. Dus je helpt er de allerrijksten absoluut niet mee. Denk maar niet dat George Soros belasting betaalt.
En die woont ook niet in Nederland.
Van. Dus maar de middenklasse, wij willen de middenklasse beschermen. De middenklasse die verwordt tot onderklasse door al dat beleid waar ik het al over heb gehad, al dat destructieve beleid dat we zien. En je wil juist dat hun bezit wordt doorgegeven. En daarvoor moet je dit soort maatregelen nemen.
Yeah, and this guy, I don't know who this guy is, right? So I'm obviously not giving any endorsement to this politician. The point that Seward made when he sent me this clip, and I don't know anything about this guy, so please no one interpret this as me endorsing anything this guy's ever done. The point is that the new right of Europe appeals to people's desire to build. It appeals to the resentment of the ultra-rich and that their kind of degrowth agenda to maintain their grip on power. And it points out that that the lower levels of capital feel like the ultra-rich have rigged it against them. And the lower levels of capital have kind of inculcated society with pessimism in order to keep their grip on power. And that they represent kind of that entrepreneurial bourgeoisie against the managerial bourgeoisie. That's the point. And, and so that's why we're showing that clip he basically saw these two clips as an example of illustrating what I'm saying about city builders and vandals and how the left has fallen into the trap of being the foot soldiers of the ultra rich and their effort to stabilize capitalism with degrowth methods, which is not socialism, but is fascism. Katusha says they talk like woke communists should talk in the West. Exactly. We should be the ones appealing to people's desire to build. We should be the ones appealing to people's desire to go to space, as city builders. We should be the ones exposing that the rich don't pay any taxes. But because the left are just basically the foot soldiers of the ultra rich, they're not doing that. And so we have a role to play in changing the political discourse. And that's why CPI, the city building tendency, is so important, because we're breaking out of this trap that left-wing politics has fallen into. And that's what the city building tendency is all about. That's what CPI and our work, right? We are city builders. I'm working. We are city builders. After the conference, the next volume, the next textbook, the part 2 textbook will come out. I think that's what we're going to do. We were planning to have a workshop in the spring. We have a new space in Vermont that we have access to. We have some ownership over. There's a new space in Vermont that a member of the CPI is an owner of, that we can use for workshops. And we're thinking that this spring, what we will do, we're focused on Portland now. After our big Portland conference, we're thinking this spring, not sure when, we will do a workshop, but it'll be part 2. It'll be for people who've already done the first workshop, the first weekend workshop, Roadmap for America, the We Are City Builders workshop, the Saxton lectures. And we will do part 2. And it'll be with this new educational manual that I'm working on. We're going to have part 2, the Saxton lectures. If you want to know what CPI is about, for anyone who's new or all of that, if you want to just know exactly what our organization is about, we have the Saxton lectures, right? And we have been trying to train people to give the Saxton lectures. The Saxton lectures are a basic intro into what CPI is all about. And that's like the introductory workshop of CPI, CPI beliefs, CPI teachings, etc. The Saxton lectures. Hold on. I don't know why the computer is being so weird here, but anyway, so I'll link you the Saxton lectures. This is like the introduction to the Center for Political Innovation, the city building tendency. So it's eight classes with discussion, etc. That's part 1, the Saxton lectures. And this book, We Are City Builders, is the companion volume that you can study that goes along with the Saxton lectures. And I've done the basics of a part 2. And now I'm working on a manual. And I guess after the Portland conference, I will spend the holiday season, continuing to work on the manual. And then I think this spring, we're going to have a part 2 workshop with volume 2. A second manual will be published, and a second part of the classes that, it'll be the more in-depth knowledge of a number of topics. It'll be aimed more at organization and building and the history of communist organizing in America, of divisions in the ruling class, etc. So we're going to have level 2 of the Saxton lectures. It won't be the Saxton lectures. It'll have another name, but they'll be the classes volume 2, will be coming out. So that's kind of what I'm working on at this point. So if you want to get caught up to speed, you want to know what we're all about, you want to know our teaching and our worldview, check out We Are City Builders. Go watch the Saxton lectures, and know that this spring the plan is for volume 2, manual number 2, and class series number 2, to learn about our teaching and our movement and where we came from. Very exciting stuff, folks. We are blazing trail, but the main thing is we want to train people to give the Saxton lectures, and we've been working on that. We want to train members of our organization to do it, and it's not as easy as it looks, right? We need people who can become workshop leaders, who can do and lead a weekend workshop teaching the basics of what our organization is about. And that's something we've been struggling to do. And that's one thing we would like to work on. We'd like people to come to our workshops from around the country and learn about Marxism and about socialism and about anti-imperialism and learn about the synthetic left, etc. And we're trying to train people to be Saxton lecturers. So that's one of our projects we're trying to figure out. The educational work of the Center for Political Innovation is what we're all about. It is vital. And we're trying to get it to be replicable, right? Everything that I do, I gave the Saxton lectures not with the intent that I would look smart and I would be the great guy up there. I gave them with the intent that they would be replicated. that they could be done, that other people could give them. And, there could be outlines of them that we could train other people to do them. And we're going to do a Saxton lecture workshop in Portland after the conference. And we're trying constantly to train other members to be able to give those classes. And now I've got basically the outline of a second series of classes, like a more advanced workshop, right? So we're kind of throwing together the basics of an educational program here to train anti-imperialists. So that's what we're doing, right? So anyway, I'm going to put on the closing music. I'll be back on tonight. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for sending the videos, Sjord. Thank you, Gala, for asking about the live streaming. Thank you, Gabby. Thank you, Nina. And we'll be back. In the struggle against U.S. imperialism is now emerging throughout the world. Ever since World War II, U.S. imperialism and its followers have been continuously launching wars of aggression. But the people of various countries have been continuously waging revolutionary wars to defeat their aggression. And while the danger of a new world war still exists, and the people of all countries must get prepared, revolution is the main trend in the world today.